This program was provided to you in part by Rich Anzalone's RE/MAX A-Team.
Marlboro's prized possession at Union Common. The magic of IMAX. Memorable moments of the Labor Day Parade. It's all coming up now in this issue of the magazine. Hello and welcome to another issue of the magazine. I'm Dan Ginden. The month of September brings us the cool, crisp weather of fall. Before we leave the summer behind, though, Kristen Doucette takes a look back at some of the Labor Day Parade's most memorable moments.
The Marlboro Labor Day Parade is one of the biggest annual community events that the city has ever seen. Having began over 50 years ago, it has become a seasonal tradition of this city. This day provokes many feelings and adds memorable moments to each of our lives.
I'm a local boy, born and raised really here in town, so some of my earliest memories involve the Labor Day Parade.
People came from everywhere. I've never seen so many people in Marlboro to an event as they did for the Labor Day Parade.
The parade will never leave Marlboro because it's such a great thing. Just a lot of terrific people, and those memories stay with me.
I love it, plain and simple.
It's a great source of pride for the city. It really is, and every year I look forward to it.
It's a great day, and we should never stop it.
Thank God Marlboro has it, and we still have it, because it's something you look forward to.
I think it's mostly tradition that people look for at the Labor Day Parade.
There's a lot of effort that goes into it, and it's a fun day. Rain or shine, it's always been a fun day.
Almost every single organization and company has participated in this parade over the years. So everybody's got their own little memory.
There are families that have been gathering on their front lawns for years. You have grandparents, parents, children, that meet every year.
We have a large family, a lot of nieces and nephews and a new baby, and you don't get to see them, but on that day, it seems like everyone shows up for the parade.
The most vivid memory that I have of the Labor Day Parade was the year that the city had cut the funding for the parade out of the budget. We raised the money to put on this wonderful parade, and it was just as wonderful as it had been every year. It really brought the community together. We got a sense that the community truly, truly, truly cared about this parade.
The most memorable experience for me with the Labor Day Parade is the parade of 2006. For the first time, I walked in the parade as the mayor, and I had walked in the parade as an elected official for 6 years prior to that as a school committee member and as a city councilor. But for me, it was really memorable to be able to have the pride in the city that I represent and walk that first time as mayor.
I was thrilled and honored to be Grand Marshal and to see all your friends all along the parade route yelling at you and hi and saying different things, you know, and calling you, and your families are there and all that.
I love shaking hands. I love bringing the parade to our children so that they'll have a fond memory of being at the Labor Day Parade with their families and loved ones.
I'm one of the people who coordinates putting the parade together. We line the different units up. I work particularly with the bands. It makes me feel good that I can help do something that makes the city proud.
One year I was walking in the parade, and I walked up to a little girl to shake her hand, and she grabbed my hand and she kissed it. And my heart just went right down to my toes. I was so touched.
Every parade's a new adventure. It really is. There's something different, something exciting. But I guess the thing that stands out for me most is all the wonderful people I've come in contact with.
governors, congressmen, representatives, senators, and performers of all kinds. Just a lot of terrific people, and those memories stay with me.
This particular year, the unit in front of us was a horse unit, and we were behind the float, and there wasn't anybody cleaning up after the horses, and the float goes, and she stepped right in the horse droppings and will never let me forget, and told me at that point that that was the last time she was ever walking in the parade with the kids.
I loved those Indians that used to come up from Rhode Island, and they grabbed me off my seat and pulled me out on the street, and my little sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws would scream, and they're going to scalp her, they're going to scalp her, and they did. They held the scalper up there. They were going to get me.
There was one year we were on our float and we were coming down to the square, coming into downtown, and all of a sudden a whole cloud of bees came at us. We couldn't understand why there were floats in front of us moving to the side and moving to the other side, and all of a sudden you see this cloud of bees coming down, and we all ducked.
The Marlboro Labor Day Parade is not just a parade to the residents who attend, it's a legacy that is upheld every year. All community members who participate hope it continues forever.
People come to expect it not only from within town but from out of town as well. It's an institution.
It gave the people something on a Labor Day, which is the end of summer, and it's turned into absolutely terrific parade.
It's a Marlboro parade. It's our own people presenting this parade to the people of Marlboro and the surrounding areas.
I think it really brings a lot of the residents downtown.
It brings thousands of people to our community every single year, and that's pride.
The credibility is there. It's just a fantastic parade. The organization starts literally the day after the parade. They start planning for the following year. And I also think a lot of it has to do with George. 28 years he's been the parade director, and he's done a fantastic job. People know him, and you know we get such great acts. He goes out and researches things and units, and it's really a wonderful family occasion, and it's a great source of pride for this city. It really is, and every year I look forward to it.
Does the name John Brown ring a bell? Yes? No? Well, we have that story coming up next. Stay with us.
Welcome to Marlboro This Week. I'm Kristen Doucette.
And I'm Brian Sullivan.
Let's begin right now with this week's top stories.
Right next door you have the house boarded up. That's really not a direction I think anybody wants to go.
Okay. Well, speaking about finances,
where are the jobs? What qualifications are necessary? Are you qualified for that dream job?
We wanted to get out in the community and highlight a couple of areas that are representative of some other areas that you are targeting.
And I'm going to demonstrate to you how forceful that exhale is. And then you can hear him inhale right there. And do it one more time.
How come we've never really heard about this before? Has it only been in industry and now that it's offered in the homes? What is it?
Well, quite frankly, it's been in industry for years.
And I think this is a very, very interesting topic because my guess is that most men in our audience really don't know very much about their prostate gland.
Wow. Wow, look at this place. He said, I've never been in here. And he said,
I am totally shocked.
I haven't seen this since I was, a little kid, going to a penny candy store, and, they think it's great.
Welcome back to the magazine. In this issue's Historically Speaking segment, Brian Sullivan goes back in time to tell us the story behind Marlborough's most famous bell.
You may or may not know the second most important bell in our nation's history is located right here on Union Common in Marlborough.
It was originally located in the United States Armory Building at Harpers Ferry, Virginia. The fort was originally built in 1848 as the Armory's fire engine and guardhouse and was the only building not destroyed during the Civil War. So who was John Brown, and why was he so important? Marlborough Historical Society member Joan Abshire has done some extensive research on just who John Brown was and why the bell is so important to Marlborough.
The bell is a symbol. On the tower itself, there's a plaque that said it's a symbol of a nation's efforts to provide equality and justice for all of its people. He was a family man. He had 20 children. He was a very dedicated abolitionist. He spent most of his adult life trying to do something about the slave situation. He was somebody that didn't see the color of people. He treated everyone the same.
John Brown's plan seemed fairly straightforward. He and his men would establish a base on the Blue Ridge Mountains from which they would assist runaway slaves and launch attacks on slaveholders. At least that was the plan. He was ready in 1858 to launch his war, but Brown asked to postpone it because one of his followers threatened to reveal the plan, a threat the blackmailer did follow through on. Brown decided to seize the federal arsenal at Harpers Ferry rather than stage guerrilla warfare from the mountains. Attacking the arsenal was in effect attacking the federal government, and many warned him of the dangers.
He was very friendly with Frederick Douglass, and he consulted with him a lot of times before he did anything. And he did on this occasion. And Frederick Douglass spent about 2 hours trying to talk him out of going to Harpers Ferry. He thought it was a steel trap and they were all going to be caught there, which is what happened.
John Brown captured the fort in 1859. He had hoped that his actions would encourage the slaves to join in his rebellion, thus enabling him to form an emancipation army.
He took the majority of these men, crossed the river, and took the night watchman at the river, took another one at the gate of the arsenal, kept them as hostages, then sent out several of his men to round up more hostages.
2 days later, the armory was stormed by Robert E. Lee and a company of Marines. Brown and 6 other men barricaded themselves in and continued to fight until Brown was seriously injured and 2 of his sons had been killed.
The fort is important because that's where John Brown made his last stand. He was holed up in there with his men and his hostages when the Marines stormed the building and took it over.
He was tried and convicted of insurrection, treason, and murder. He was executed on December 2nd, 1859.
When Fort Sumter was fired on, the governor of Massachusetts called for troops, and the people of Marlborough responded. They created a militia made up mostly of Marlborough men, but there were some from surrounding communities, and they offered their services to the government, who accepted them. They went to Boston. They became the 13th Massachusetts Volunteers, and by August they were down in Maryland on the Potomac River across from Harpers Ferry.
Company 1 was assigned to remove anything of salvage value from the arsenal. Several men decided that the bell hanging in the tower would be just what the firehouse in Marlborough needed. On September 26, 1862, Lieutenant David Brown led the men of the company to remove the bell.
They found a rope and started to lower the bell, and the rope broke and fell to the ground, and there were a couple of little chips along the flange. But it didn't damage the bell, so they loaded it on a scow and took it across the river. They realized that it was government property, so they sent to the War Department for permission.
The War Department gave them permission to keep the bell, but they found, to their disappointment, that their lack of funds and restrictions on railroad transportation would prevent them from shipping it to Marlborough at that time.
The only people that really know about the bell are the people in Marlborough and the people in Harpers Ferry. The rest of the country doesn't know anything about this bell.
In the spring of 1862, the regiment went to battle, and the Marlborough men left the bell in the care of a Mrs. Snyder, who had baked bread for them during the winter months.
Finally, after many engagements and casualties, their 3-year term of enlistment in the war was over, and Company 1 returned home. The old bell was forgotten. The war lasted longer than expected, and only 9 of the original 16 men who procured the bell had survived. It wasn't until 30 years later, when some of the men made a trip to Williamsport, that they decided to inquire about the bell. To their surprise, Mrs. Snyder had lived up to her promise. The bell was still in her possession, and she gladly gave it to the men. Lysander Parker and James M. Gleason of the original Bell Squad then had the bell shipped to Marlborough. John A. Rollins, Post 43 of Marlborough, was then building a 3-story headquarters for themselves on Main Street. The John Brown Bell was placed on the front of the GAR building, overhanging the street. When the GAR building was torn down, a special tower was built on Union Common to house the bell. This is where it remains to this day.
To me, it's more than just a symbol of John Brown's efforts to free the slaves. It's also kind of like a relic of the people who brought it back.
So the next time you're walking by Union Common, stop for a moment and soak in this little bit of rich history that the city of Marlborough has to offer. For the magazine, I'm Brian Sullivan.
When the magazine returns, we'll take you behind the scenes at Jordan Furniture's IMAX Theater.
If somebody told me 10 years ago that I'd have a TV show, I would have thought they were crazy. But you guys make it simple enough to actually do it.
It is easy to do. It is something that we're able to use. Like our crew was not experienced when we first started taping a year ago. And now, I mean, you wouldn't know it when they walk in tonight to tape. It's like they've been, trained in a school to do this.
The best thing about broadcasting in Marlborough is that you have a Marlborough audience and you're talking about Marlborough issues. And I think that's the absolute best.
I bump into a lot of people who say that they see the show, and most of the shows are very interesting, not because of the host, it's because of the guests.
The people that I'm working with are really, really wonderful. The crew at the studio is fantastic.
You can be creative, you can do what you want. You don't have a program director breathing down your neck or a manager saying, no, you can't do this and you can't do that. So you can be yourself, do what you want, be creative.
The city of Marlborough is my city. I'm very involved in it with the schools and the people in sports. So an opportunity to show Marlborough and get the people themselves from Marlborough to be presented.
What's great about M8 is they teach you everything that you really need to know to produce a show.
They showed us how to use all of the equipment, very helpful, very, very great people working here.
The staff was very, very thorough in their effort to show you how to use the equipment and to explain the whole process.
The training is interesting because we've been on a long time with a lot of people who work here. Most of the people who work here are very good. They give us the kind of support we need.
Several times when I first started in broadcasting, a lot of the equipment was held together with baling wire and chewing gum. So it's great up here, everything's new, everything works.
Training was great. You got an opportunity to train in everything, all aspects, or just if you just wanted to do camera work or you just wanted to edit. I was looking for all of it. So with all different types of equipment, different types of cameras, opportunities were there to get familiar with everything.
Welcome back to the magazine. In our How Do They Do That segment, Christina Mira went behind the scenes at the IMAX Theater inside Jordan's Furniture Store.
IMAX technology was developed in Canada and has been used in productions since the early 1970s. It, like other forms of entertainment, has been in a slump for the past few years, but films like 300 and the recently released Dark Knight have reignited moviegoers' love for the very oversized screen. To learn more about this increasingly popular way to experience Hollywood magic, we went to the IMAX 3D theater at Jordan's Furniture in Natick and spoke with projection manager Tom Fraze.
We're standing next to a QTR, a quick turn reel unit. This quick turn reel unit allows us to run film without having to rewind it. The center of the platter feeds out the film to the projectors, and then the film comes up on this take-up arm and takes up the film after it's gone through the projector. You remove the take-up ring and do it all over again. It's a very clever device that saves on rewinding film and allows us to run film shows closer together.
The quick turn reel unit is so special because IMAX movies are shot on 70mm film, whereas traditional movies use 35mm film. In this instance, size really does matter. A 40-minute IMAX movie is about 3 miles long, and it is strong enough to pull a truck. But how is it that the sound at an IMAX movie makes you feel as if you're right there in the scene? Tom, an assistant manager of guest relations, Emmy Miniter, let us in on a couple of audio secrets.
We use a Crestron automation system. Crestron automation system allows us to, with the push of one button, start all the equipment. The equipment talks to our digital theater audio control, DTAC. The digital soundtrack runs 12,000 watts of power on these amplifiers, 48 speakers in 6 discrete locations. It's similar to your at-home 5.1 system, but your 5.1 system doesn't have that 6-channel. The 6 channels at the top of the giant screen, which allows the audio to follow the spaceship up the screen or the avalanche to fall down the screen to give a depth of sound to the auditorium, to the space. The digital audio is IMAX proprietary, and they mix the soundtracks after the Hollywood studios mix them, so the sound comes separately from the film. So the PLC sends projector time numbers, and then the computer runs showtime numbers, and those numbers together make sound comes out.
You know, you're getting the what we call butt kickers in the seats, the subwoofers. You're getting the 12,000 watt surround sound stereo, which is, you know, I don't know how much more than a regular theater, but it's, you know, a lot more intense. You feel like you're more a part of the theater. You feel like you're in the movie. And what was great about The Dark Knight is the director, Christopher Nolan, shot a bunch of the scenes, the action scenes, with an IMAX camera. So it pops up to the full screen. It takes the whole screen, and it's amazing. You're just, you know, you're totally involved in it, and it's really great.
Amazing audio, razor-sharp pictures, comfy seats. Are there any other secrets to the world of IMAX? Well, in order to guarantee that gorgeous picture and sound combo, the screen is actually painted by a robot to ensure a flawless coating of the paint. There are also thousands of tiny holes spaced evenly around the screen to allow the sound to travel directly to the audience. Overall, it's an experience that Emmy sums up perfectly.
People are like, they're really thrilled. You know, that their whole experience was from start to finish. The movie just blows them away, especially the IMAX theater. You know, when people compare it to a regular theater and then they come here to see it, people, you know, they're just really excited by the whole experience, the sound. They just, you know, they're part of the experience. They're excited.
So when that next blockbuster comes out that you're dying to see, why not make the upgrade to IMAX? For the magazine, I'm Christina Mira.
That will do it for this issue of the magazine. We hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to contact us if you have any story ideas or suggestions for this program. We're always listening. For all of us here at WMCT-TV, I'm Dan Ginden. We'll see you in the next issue.
This program was provided to you in part by Rich Angelone's RE/MAX A-Team.